Okay, it is 9:54 and I want to make an update. I haven't traded anything, but it feels a little better than yesterday. It seems to be, at least in theory, more setups. And I was looking at OZSE for maybe a breakout above this 29 level, because if it were to have done something like that, maybe instead of this red day, it could be a green day and it can continue to be a third green day and uptrend some more. But it doesn't seem like it's the case because there have been some sellers with a lot of size, like 200 and 500,000 shares that continuously shows up at the ask around the 28.5 and the 29 level, so it hasn't been looking good for that reason. No interest in ABML. I mean, it could try to turn around, but I'm not trying to save this stock. It can do whatever it wants. This is actually nice with DWAC when it broke past VWAP. I didn't see it when it did it here, but in theory, it's trying to do a continuation and keep uptrending. And this could have been a setup that I could have taken. It's very sketchy the way this one trades, but it did get from the 46s to the 48s, and this might not be so bad too if it tries to dip and hold this higher level right here where VWAP is at the moment. I was also looking at IDAI for a bull flag setup. I was watching it very carefully, but I didn't like it because this is a listed stock and everybody's risk level is going to be around this $6.99, $7 level. So I was worried that if I were to take a trade and it breaks it, everybody and their mother is going to be cutting the trade, and that's going to cause a panic, which is exactly what it did. It didn't make like a huge red candle, but it did just downtrend very quickly. So what I did was just draw a trend line right here, thinking that if it's going to be a bull flag, it's going to break this line at some point, and it never did it, so I never traded it, and I think that was a good way to analyze and maybe consider trading it if it were to have done something differently. I'll be looking at DWAC, but it doesn't look like there's any OTC setups for right now. Okay, it is 9:59. I just had I barely held on to this trade because I didn't like the way it was trading. But in theory, this thing can play out and it can continue the uptrend. What happened was is that again, what I mentioned previously, DWAC. The only thing that's not in favor that I don't like is that it's up on a gap up day. So ideally, it would have just transitioned from this day to the next day instead of a gap up when it's on a gap up. Any stock in particular. It just makes me feel like it's floating on air and it might just fall down and realize that, it's not on the ground. And the idea was is that it broke VWAP and made a move towards the upside, and now because it's uptrending, it's still on a continuation. Looking at the daily chart, is going to downtrend, play off of VWAP, which is at a higher level now. Big red candle, wow. And because it's at a higher level, it's going to hold VWAP, is going to trade around it, and then it can continue the uptrend, and maybe best case scenario, it breaks the day high and it continues to go forward. But I instantly did not like this stock when I got in at 958. I was in 3 shares at 47.33, so right here, not 47.33, 47.12 is when I got in. I had a very wide limit because I didn't want to just be so close to the price action that I missed my order by a few pennies or something. But I was in it right here at 47.12, and I was in it in this candle, and when I got in, it just started the trade with a 40 cent spread, and that was really bad. And maybe that's how it's been trading before, but it wasn't until when I got in the trade I realized that it was trading that wide. I knew it was a little wide, but not that wide. So I did not like it for that reason. And what happened was is that when I saw the spread was just that wide, it reminds me of a lot of OTCs like IOUS that would desperately try to uptrend, so the market makers or whoever's behind it would make the ask super far away and the bid is very far away from the ask, but somebody hits the ask and then the bid jumps up. At least they try to make it jump up and it uptrends, but it was just a really sad way the way it tried to make a move towards the upside. So because it reminded me of that sketchy price action, I got out. I placed a sell order. I instantly got filled. I just put something slightly higher than when I got in, and at the time it was, I believe, 47 flat by like 47.45. I got out at 47.20. I didn't make much. I didn't work out. This was a scratch ultimately, but it can actually uptrend and maybe do the thing that I wanted. I just don't like the way it's trading, at least especially here when it had that 45 cent spread. I didn't like that at all. So I'll make an update later to see if this thing does it. If it tries to break, in theory, this 47.40 level, They can do it, but you know, I don't like how it's on the gap up. If it wasn't for that, I'd probably have more confidence. But it looks like it's trying not to work. So yeah, it's a good thing I, you know, called off the trade because I didn't like the price action. It could try to trade off of a lower level, maybe playing off of this level, but then I wouldn't like how it's starting to get far from VWAP. I'll make an update later to see what this one ultimately does. I just didn't like the price action when I got in. I didn't like the spread, and I also had in mind that it was on the gap up, but I've seen this pattern before, so that's why I considered it. Okay, it is 10:23 a.m. and looking at the chart now, it looks like the setup worked, but when I tried it was way too early, is what it seems like. I wanted it to just dip just slightly into this level below VWAP and then come back, but it actually decided to play at a level much lower, and it did eventually turn around. You can see like the shoulder, the head, and the tiny shoulder of an inverse head and shoulders, and it did make a move from the 4650 level to the 47s, which is VWAP now. Is it going to uptrend and maybe put up another higher low? Maybe, maybe not, but it looks like the setup did work out. Again, I was just too early, and I didn't want to like try it again and try it again. That's not really how I like to trade stuff like that, but it's nice to see that the setup worked. Again, this is a listed stock. It's not something I have that much experience with compared to OTCs, and yeah, that's really about it. I don't really see anything else, so I'm probably gonna start working on other things, but that was an interesting move with DWAC, and maybe it can continue the uptrend, but it would have been the ideal setup right here. I think this was pretty good, and also the breakout past VWAP right here, that wasn't that bad of a setup at all. Okay, it is 9:41 p.m. and I am here to call it off. Overall, I am up on a day $1.04, and that was two scratches trading DWAC, and I also traded ABML. When I was in the garage on my work laptop, I did take a trade with ABML, and why did I consider a trade? If you look at my previous videos, I was interested in maybe some kind of a swing setup. It's not necessarily something that I do very much, if ever. A swing setup, maybe a few days or something like that, is when I'm considering holding a position. But I did get in the setup with ABML and I got out. I got out for a small profit, but I just didn't really feel confident in the setup anymore, and I got out of it for that reason. But why was I interested in it? It looks a bit like, especially if you look over here, maybe like the head of an inverse head and shoulder. So the shoulder or the head, and then maybe it can uptrend to the 130s level, and then you know maybe make the shoulder eventually. But I just don't like how long it's been doing this price action here in the head. And another thing that had me interested in this is that if you look at the overall downtrend right here on a 20-day 15-minute chart, if you could like draw some kind of a trend line, you know, from this range right here following the top of this right here, maybe even bringing it down just a little bit, you can see it's breaking the trend line. So this overall downtrend that it's had since like the 4th, as you can see here, has broken it. But you know, I've tried this setup before on listed stocks. They don't always work. They can offer a little perk, but then they just sell off, and I just lost confidence in it. But you can see how it just broke this downtrending trend line. So I thought maybe this could be a setup where I can take into consideration, and maybe over a longer period of time it can uptrend, maybe try to make a move, which would be pretty nice. And I did get in for that reason at 1:33 p.m., which was right here at 107. So I got in right around here, right at 107, and you know it also looked nice because it downtrended from the 110s and went under VWAP, went to that 105 level, and then it traded itself back and broke VWAP, started to hold it, and then it looked like maybe it could do what it actually did eventually, which was maybe try to uptrend above VWAP and maybe overall try to turn around with that trend line break in place. But again, I just lost confidence in it. I did sell at 206 at 108.6, so just a slight profit. And I traded 50 shares because I was going to give it a $5 risk level if it were to get to $1. And then worst case scenario, I'm out at 98 cents, so I included some slippage. I could have traded larger, but I think maybe with swing setup, since I haven't really traded those that many times, maybe I'll just have a puny $5 risk level and just gain some experience. But I will be watching this to see what it can do over a longer period of time. And again, I got out right around here. Right here is when I got out at 1086. And yeah, that was it. I'll be interested in seeing what ABML does eventually. DWAC did do that thing. Wow, it really shot up after hours. That's impressive. I had my buy at 47.12, 3 shares. Pretty cool. Did Twitter fall off a cliff? No. All right, that's pretty cool. My trade with DWAC was way back here. I don't want to, be like a dying record, but I saw the downtrend under VWAP, uptrends, and then I was thinking of a higher low, VWAP at a higher level. It did eventually turn around, and then it downtrended, and then it played back and forth, and it looks like it started to uptrend later in the day when I wasn't really, I guess, looking at this setup anymore. But that's pretty impressive that it just had that after hours breakout. That looks pretty cool. Wow. Anyway, that's it. Just a very small scratch trade, a speculative trade with DWAC and ABML. I mean, again, maybe this thing can continue the uptrend. That's all I have for today.